Alright, we're going to review what equivalent fractions are and how do we make equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions just means equal fractions. So we're going to look at this fraction of 1/2 and we're going to try to make a fraction that is equal to this fraction. Now, it may be bigger or it may be smaller than your original fraction. It just depends on what operation you use. Remember, we talked in class, you can either make an operation equivalent by using multiplication or division. Okay, let's try multiplication first. Your number's a little bit smaller, so I would go at multiplication to make it bigger. Okay, so remember, we do not start with 1/1 because 1/1 is the same thing like multiplying it by itself, because 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 1 is 2. So we're never going to start with 1. Okay, we're never going to start with 1. So let's go to the next biggest number. Let's go to 2. Remember, what you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So 1 times 2 is going to equal 2. 2 times 2 is going to equal 4. Okay, and so that would mean that 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay, so this would be one answer. Now, on your homework sheet, it says you need 2 answers. So you can either choose to, again, you can either choose to divide, but since your number's so small, you won't be able to because there's nothing you can divide into 1/2 to make it a smaller fraction. 1/2 is the smallest that you can go. So let's keep multiplying. Okay, we already did 2, so let's go to the next biggest number, which would be 3. So we could do 1/2 times 3. Now remember, if we do 3 at the top, you have to do 3 at the bottom, okay? Because 3/3 is 1 whole part. 2/2 is 1 whole part. Alright, so if we multiply 1 times 3, that's going to give us 3. If we multiply 2 times 3, that's going to give us 6. Okay, so what that tells us is that 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. Okay, so here would be your two answers. 2/4 and 3/6 are equivalent to 1/2. And all this is telling you that you're multiplying by 2 and you're multiplying by 3 is that you're saying 2/4 is twice as big as 1/2. And the same thing here, you're saying 3/6 is 3 times as big as 1/2. Okay, I'm going to do one of the examples from your homework. I believe it's number 8. And it was 3/12. Okay, so looking at this fraction, I can either do one of two things. I could either multiply to make it bigger, or I can divide to make it smaller. But regardless, my goal is to make equal fractions. Okay, so from one of your examples, I know that they start with division. And remember, if you're dividing, you're making it smaller. Okay, so again, you cannot do 3 divided by 1/1 because 3 divided by 1 is 3, 12 divided by 1 is 12. Okay, so you can go to 2, but you have to make sure that if you go to the next number 2, that 2 has to evenly divide into 3 and it has to evenly divide into 12. Well, we know that 2 cannot evenly divide into 3. So let's just mark out 2. You can't use 2. So let's go to the next number, 3. Okay, 3 divided by 3. And remember, whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. So that's why we have 3/3. It makes a whole part. Okay, so let's look and see if this will divide evenly. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 12 divided by 3 is 4. So yes, it divides evenly. So this means that 3/12 and 1/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay, but instead of this number being twice as big as this number, when you're dividing, you're saying that this number is 3 times smaller than this number. Okay, but they're still the equal amounts. Okay, I can probably show you this better Monday when we get to the fraction strips. That way I can better show you. Let's see. So here is one of your answers for that one. Okay. Now we're looking at it again. You can't divide anything else to make this fraction smaller. This was the smallest it's going to go. So the other option you have to make an equivalent fraction is to multiply. So you can look at 3/2 again, 3/12 again, and you can multiply it. Now, you're going to go back and you're going to start at 1. Can you divide a fraction by 1 to make an equivalent fraction? No, because it's going to give you the same fraction. So you're going to move up. Can you multiply this by 2? Yes, of course you can. Whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom. Okay, 3 times 2 is 6. 12 times 2 is 24. Alright, so 3/12, 6/24. They are equivalent fractions. So your answer for number 8, it's going to be 1/4 and 6/24. That's going to be your answer for this. Now remember, you even gave me an example in class that was great. You said instead of just going from 2, then you multiply 3, then you multiply 4, you skipped around and you said that you could even do 3/12 times, I believe your example was 6/6. As long as it's a whole number, when you're multiplying and it's the same number, you can multiply whatever you want and it's going to be an equivalent fraction. Okay, so 3 times 6 would be 18, and then 12 times 6, let me do it on the side, make sure, would be 72. Okay, so 3/12 is equivalent to 18/72. Okay, and all this is saying is that 18/72 is 6 times bigger than 3/2, but they are both still equivalent fractions. So you can have a ton of answers for this as long as you understand that equivalent fractions have to be equal fractions multiplied by the same thing. Okay, now it's a little bit trickier when you divide, because whatever you divide that into has to be able to go into each number. Okay, I'm going to send you another video showing you a few more examples of some bigger numbers on your page from your homework.